I can hear it going.
Welcome, everybody.
Oh my goodness. Can you turn yours off?
I
So
sure
can
can.
go on?
I sure can.
Welcome, everybody. As you guys join in, please write your name, where you're from, and your chapter in the chat. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hey, Stoika, see you in there. Jim Miller, Nick Balser in the house. Wow, so nice to have the ACC Women's Final Referee joining us today. Welcome. Megan Mullen, shout out to my Challenge Cup roomie there. Hello, Wes, Danny, Andy. Welcome, welcome, everybody.
Colin, this goes all the way from Washington State.
Colin, Washington State. Very nice.
Jim Albertson, Iowa.
Sarah from Kentucky. Welcome, welcome. As everybody gets settled in.
Assad keeps the streak alive.
Assad joining for the 7th straight, yeah?
7th straight.
Awesome.
Jim Ruther. Hey, Jim.
Fantastic. All right, well, we'll get started, everybody. So welcome, NISOA Nation. It's so great to see everybody. Thank you for joining us for the 7th and final installment of Fireside Chats. If you haven't had the pleasure of joining us previously, we've had Ted Uncle, we've had Howard Webb, we've had Dee Cantor from the NBA, one of the first females in the NBA. We had NHL officials, MLB officials, and tonight some legends in the game of soccer. I'll let Chris do the introductions. Previous editions have been uploaded to YouTube with not NHL and not MLB. So I know a lot of you have been asking about that. So we had to go through some extra approvals, but I'm happy to report that we'll be uploading those here shortly to YouTube in an unlisted subscription. So you won't be able to share it broadly, but we'll have a link that we'll give to all of our NISOA members. So you'll be able to view it and share with our members if anybody may have missed it. So we are doing that. So super excited that we'll have those two up and running here shortly. And if you haven't joined us before, a couple kind of rules of engagement. So in below, or some of you might have it at the top, depending on your feature, there's a chat feature. If you click on the chat, you can join in the conversation. You can do a roll call, tell us who you are, where you're from. You can join in some banter as we listen to the conversation tonight. If you have any questions for our guests and or Chris, you can ask them using the Q&A feature. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see a Q&A, click on that, just type in your question. And you can also like other people's questions. If you go on and you see somebody ask something that you thought was relevant and you want to like it, and then I'll be sending those up to Chris and team to ask and answer. So a big shout out to those who are officiating conference tournaments. I know a lot of us might be like, wait, there's soccer going on, but there are some conferences have proceeded with some COVID regulations. So congratulations to all those officials that are working those tournaments. I watched some games last night, some really great officiating, some exciting matches. So if you get a chance to tune in, please do, and support our NISOA family members who are out there on the turf with some tough matches, undoubtedly. So congratulations to all those appointments and good luck out there, guys, as those tournaments continue on. So again, big thank you to NISOA Foundation Fund for supporting this initiative and all of our education initiatives virtually this year, as 2020 has definitely been an interesting one for us all. But if you haven't joined the Fireside Chat, it's a very unique series where we have some intimate conversations about some of the soft touch things we don't necessarily talk about in typical clinics, where we talk about the technical aspects, red card versus yellow card, what is handling, these types of conversations. What we're doing with Fireside Chat is talking a little bit more about some of the soft touch issues, like how do you balance? How do you talk about the grind? What does officiating under pressure look like? How do you manage it when you mess up? These types of conversations that are really tough to talk about in a really unique, intimate setting with some of the best officials out there. So super excited about the series. I know we've gotten a lot of really positive reviews from everyone out there. So if you enjoy it, please make sure you fill out the post survey. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, who you'd like to see in future sessions, so we can be sure that if we do continue this session, that it's tailored to the things that you guys want and you guys need out there on the pitch that's going to help you. So one more shout out. I don't know if you guys know, but OSI is having their holiday sale I was wearing this earlier, but it's 90 degrees in Florida, so I had to take it off. But here's some swag. I'm going to represent my nice wool jacket here. It's got one of those nice features where you put your hands in, you're like, hey, love that. But go ahead and check out OSI if you're looking for some swag to keep you warm. They're having their holiday sale. Well, I know I love the holiday sale. They always have jerseys for bundles or polos for bundles, jackets. Go check it out. Get a couple pieces to add to your wardrobe for this upcoming spring season. So super excited about that. So check it out. Without further ado, I'll hand it off to you, Chris. Everybody sit back, enjoy, light your fireplace, grab a glass of wine or water, whatever you prefer, and sit back and enjoy the conversation tonight. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Tori. Welcome, everybody. Week 7 of Fireside Chats. It's been a fun 7 weeks so far. I am pleased to have 2 gentlemen on this evening that don't really need an introduction. I'm going to try my best, but we don't have all night. But we are joined by 2 NISOA Hall of Famers, Dr. Joe Mack and Dr. Don Wilbur. Dr. Joe, I mean, I don't even know where to start. You've been around the game forever and ever and ever. You have your goalkeeper camps. You've served as a rules analyst for a number of years, FIFA and CONCACAF match commissioner, longtime administrator. I don't think there's a hat you haven't worn in the sport of soccer aside from maybe groundskeeper. But for all I know, maybe you have. And then Dr. Wilbur, also been around the game a very long time, a long list of contributions, NISOA Hall of Famer, NCAA first ever National Coordinator of Officials, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And longtime contributor to U.S. Soccer, NISOA, and CONCACAF as well. So you 2, welcome. I see you're spending the evening together, staying out of mischief. Maybe.
Thank you for having us on, and we're having our water to make sure we're hydrated for this hour and a half that we've been looking forward to from the moment that you asked us to be together with it. So thank you so much.
I don't want to start any rumors, but Joe and I have been living together for the last 3 months.
Well, I won't tell Mary or Barb. So perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. I don't even know where to start. I mean, we've got an hour and 23 minutes. It's going to fly by. We'll get into as much as we can. We've got some awesome videos to share with the group. I'll screen share here in a little bit. But before we get to that, I'll start with a softball. Dr. Joe, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit, if a little bit is possible, about your career as an NISOA official.
Well, I actually had 2 careers as a NISOA official. I grew up playing in New York and started refereeing in New York. So I was a member of the New York chapter. But when I moved to Connecticut, I had to restart all over again for some reason. So, and I really wasn't, because I was coaching. I coached at Long Island University, first in Brooklyn, and then University of New Haven in Connecticut. And I was doing a lot of clinics, goalkeeper clinics, and at that time, the U.S. Army was sponsoring clinics, and they were going to sponsor the first ever national high school all-star game at West Point. And they wanted me to referee it, and but it was sanctioned somehow by NISOA, and NISOA said that I had to re-sign on, become a member again in order to referee this game. So I took an emergency written exam and joined, and then began a Connecticut NISOA career. And that was probably in, I don't know, maybe early 1970s.
Wow.
And from then on, I really enjoyed my time working NISOA games in New England. I mean, in New England, there are so many colleges, you could do 60, 70 games. And I don't mean working 2 games a day, which I never did, but you could do 60, 70 games in a year. And then I think I was very fortunate because I was selected as the first referee to come from out of the area to go, into referee ACC. when the ACC started to get really serious about soccer, and they wanted to bring some referees from outside the area to be more to be more neutral or whatever, and that led to a really close attachment to Dr. Ray Barnaby, who was a mentor, and he helped me so much. And I did some ACC tournaments and finally the 1988 National Championship games. So I've had a great career in NISOA and loved every minute of it. And I'm happy to still be involved as an assessor for NISOA.
Awesome.
And be in their Hall of Fame. So
Yes,
thank you.
absolutely. It's it's a long storied career, it sounds like, right?
Thank you.
Long story.
Don, Dr. Wilbur, how about you?
Oh, I want Joe to go on a few more. Mine was very similar, except I'm older than Joe, believe it or not. But I started USSF refereeing in the state of South Carolina. So I drove 10,000 miles throughout South Carolina to get people to become USSF referees. The NISOA people, I think they'd only been in existence about a year, then asked me to come join them. I did. They sent me to E-Town, a camp that NISOA uses to develop referees, and I met again the Don of NISOA. That is, I met Dr. Burnaby. And Dr. Burnaby, if you've ever heard of him or met him, first question he does is, well, what do you do? And you tell him, and he finds a position in the organization for you. So I started out as a groundskeeper and moved on to lighting the fields. Now the rest is similar to Joe's. You meet the right people at the right time, and then you have to have enough fluidity and plasticity to adapt to what they want so you can go on and do it. And so, yeah, I did the ACC with Ray and him. But to me, the secret is, again, when the door knocks, know who's knocking and open it.
You still got to be able to referee, though.
Well, the first 2 years were good.
I guess that's better than no years, right? You got two out of the way. Dr. Joe, you've served in a long list of roles, and I've mentioned quite a few of them, from player, coach, referee, broadcaster, administrator, match commissioner, groundskeeper, maybe it was just Don that did that. How have you navigated all these roles, and were there any that brought you more pride than others?
Wow. I'll tell you that whatever the role was, I took it very seriously. I grew up in New York City and managed to make a career out of playing, coaching, refereeing soccer and some of the other things that you talked about. And, if I said that soccer was very important to me, that you would say, wow, that's just so many people say that. But it is really, really, it made me. So out of respect for the game, whenever I was involved in any aspect of the game, then I did it to the best of my ability. And I think I never took a shortcut. And so I developed a reputation that people knew that if they gave me an assignment, I was going to be all in and not cheat the game. So there was no particular role that was more difficult than any other, because they were all difficult because of the pressure I put on myself to be successful at it. So even today, I get nervous about any little job. If I have a speaking engagement, or even like what we're doing here now, you see how loose Don is. He doesn't get nervous, but I get nervous. But put a lot of pressure on myself to do the best I possibly can do, and it's worked for me.
Yeah. You know, Don made a good point, right? You never know who's knocking, right? And we need to find out who's knocking and open that door. And is it safe to say that so many of these roles that you've come across throughout your career because of other roles, right? So one role has opened the door to another role.
Well, that's right. One of my first jobs was as a director of intramurals at Long Island University. So I learned to referee. Actually, I could referee basketball, volleyball, baseball umpire, soccer, flag football, even boxing. So I just loved, officiating. So it was easy for me to make that jump. I grew up in New York City and was a hockey fan, and I watched the referees in hockey. You know, there's a big similarity back then when hockey had a referee and only two linesmen, not like today with two referees. So I used to compare the hockey referees and the soccer referees and just, one thing just led to the other. And now I'm finishing up my career, I guess, or maybe something else will happen. But today I was rules analyst on the U.S. national team game against Panama. There were no issues in the game for the referees, so I didn't get called on to do an explanation, but I already have my assignments for MLS playoffs coming up. I've already started my homework for those games. I will be tomorrow and Wednesday participate in the pro clinic for the referees as I did last month, just so I know what the expectation is for the referees and so that if I get called upon to speak maybe about VAR or whatever, I'm fully prepared. You might remember, Chris, that when I got assigned to work the games in Russia, I went to Minneapolis to sit down with Greg Barkey and the staff from Pro to learn exactly how VAR worked, because I knew VAR was going to be the big issue of the World Cup in Russia, and it certainly was. So you can't take any shortcuts, and you always have to be prepared, and you have to respect the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. You know, you've been really successful in the world of soccer, right? So I'm going to screen share for a second because you haven't always been successful, I don't think. Let me find this real quick. Can you walk us through this, Dr. Joe?
Well, being a referee is being a risk taker, and I took some risk in my day. I used to drive in NASCAR.
That's Joe going.
That's me, number 46, doing a 5.5 rollover. And as the tape continues, you can see me come out of the car. It's a pretty serious accident that I survived. And continue racing for a couple more years. But I will tell you, of all of the things that I did, there I am with my daughter right there. Met her over the fence because they thought it was going to be a really serious accident. So, of all of the things, I tell you what, there's some fantastic people that do grassroots racing, and I loved every minute of it. And I got just as excited and nervous being behind that wheel as I did before any soccer game. So it was, all part of my risk-taking life, so to speak.
I like it. Well, I'm glad you walk away from it, right? Because after you roll 5 times, you wouldn't think you would just climb out of there and walk away.
Well, a couple of concussions and, I'm still here.
The most damage came after when his wife got a hold of it.
Yeah,
I believe it. You should have heard what Dr. Wilbur said before this when I showed him this video, and he said, "Well, that's what Joe's games looked like when he refereed. It was just carnage everywhere."
That's right.
Yeah. I'm going to try to keep us on the rails tonight, okay? Don, what were some of the best moments along the way for you?
I forgot the question, Judge. Joe took so damn long talking about that, but would you repeat it one more time?
Sure. I said, what were throughout your officiating career, what were some of the best moments along the way? And if that involves the war story, then that's totally fine.
Sure does. The absolute best was 1988 McGuire Cup under 19 final at the German-Hungarian club outside of Philadelphia. It happened to be the 75th anniversary of USSF. So you go do the pre-game inspection, and who's in the audience? All 7 FIFA referees. That's all we had. Oh, but that's okay. Who was next to them? Well, a guy named Werner Fricker, president of USSF. Who was next to him? What's that guy's name?
Yao Havelange.
Oh, Yao Havelange, president of FIFA. Who was next to him? Secretary General of FIFA, Blattner. And who in the hell was next to him? Henry Kissinger. Okay? Plus Joe's wife and 1,999 other dignitaries that attended a big banquet the night before.
That's right.
You with me?
Uh-huh.
Sure. So
No
we're in
pressure.
the locker room prior to the game, and that ensemble I just talked about walks into our locker room,
Except my wife.
except your wife.
Hmm.
She was doing the groundskeeping at the time because Joe was off. So they walk in the room, and what are you going to do? Say, I'm sorry, but this is for real referees only. You stand, put your hand over your heart, you hum Dixie or whatever you know, and invite them in. And the president of FIFA says, we would like you to try something new today. Would you be willing to do that? What are you going to say to the president of FIFA? Huh? Go find a groundskeeper. No. So I said, well, sure, of course. What is it? My AR1 was Dave McKee. My AR2 was Don Byron's son. My 4th official was Steve Olson. I mean, that was a hell of a good group I was hanging around with, right? I looked at a nod. What do you got? Well, if there is a foul near the penalty area, we want the AR to indicate with the flag between their legs that it's in the box. And if not, that one that we've used forever until like the last 4 years. I was the first to get to use that. I liked it so much, I called 3, not 1, not 2, 3 penalty kicks.
You called 1 twice.
Ooh, I didn't have a camera to look at it. A VCR wasn't available.
Yeah.
3 PKs in that game. The New Jersey Union Lancers won 4-2 over Santa Clara Nomads, who had an affiliation with Brian Hall. So, I was out of CONCACAF or any FIFA after that. You with me? We're serious people here.
Was Brian coaching?
Yes, but not that team. Yeah, they had some other guy.
Yeah, I know he was coaching, yeah.
But to me, that was a game I liked so much. I went and watched it the day before I came over here. Yes, it is on YouTube, kids. And they didn't have black and white then. ESPN put microphones up on the goal post, which I didn't like, but I didn't have to worry because 5 minutes into the game, there was enough obscenities being yelled by the players, not at me, but at the ball. The particular type of ball was the sky, the opponents, and all of that. So they took them off. That was my big game that I'll never forget. As for the other things, I mentioned you don't know, someone comes knocking on the door and you don't know who it is. But based on what he said and based on what we know, your past performances, your reputation, your pride in your work, keeping fit, following the laws of the game and the rules of the game and staying up on them, that'll tell you who's knocking on the door. Okay? You can open the door, but it's based on your reputation, why they're knocking.
That's right.
Not somebody else. You made that bed and now you're prepared to lie in it. And that's all I can tell you is be professional. I hate to hear people say they're training. I hate for them to come up to me and say, what's the minimum time?
How much I'm getting paid.
Yeah, but for me, when you're training, why are you training for the minimum? You should train for the maximum and set yourself apart from others that you are fit. But if everybody trains like for the minimum, my children brought home minimum grades. They wouldn't be walking still today. We don't look for that. We strive for better than that.
That's
So
right.
one little thing or more. I think your thoughts actually lead to actions, and what you think is you're going to act that way. So I would inform everyone, be positive in life. Okay? I believe in the Zen of refereeing. I believe awareness leads to what? Awareness leads to actions. Actions lead to choices. And from those choices, we select. But the problem is we forget we're responsible for the choice we made. So if you don't feel bad about a game, when you made a bad call, like in that game, I missed the handball, I'm still worried about it today. You have to bear the consequences of your actions and be responsible for them and live up to them. Fret for a couple days, talk to your friends, find out what you could have done, the old thing about what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and how can we fix it, and and then move on. Enough.
I couldn't agree more. That's great advice. Great advice. So that game, McGuire Cup, the next question on the list, what was the most difficult game you ever refereed? Was that it?
For me?
Yeah.
Joe. Take it away, Joe.
For me, they were all difficult. So, no, but wow. I refereed the very first MISL game, Major Indoor Soccer League game. And this was at a time when we really didn't have a rule book. So we were making stuff up as we were going along.
So hold on, let me pause you. Let me pause you there, because I've discovered a training video from the MISL days that I'd like to share with the group,
All right.
just so we all know what chirping is.
Okay. This was the first video on refereeing indoor soccer. We put this together probably in year 2 or year 3 of the league. I don't know that another training video for indoor was ever made, but this was.
This would have been good for violent conduct. This would have been good.
This is one that we put together.
Oh,
And there's the referee in chief.
yeah.
Number one,
Yeah.
like we're gonna watch that one more time just because it's so good.
Okay. I think I have the 16 millimeter of that someplace too, somewhere in storage.
I mean, this is pretty quality instructional material.
Were fouls called?
Fouls, committed penalties, and
Probably not.
all of that.
Probably not.
No. In the early days of indoor soccer, I mean, we had some of the best players in the country playing. A lot of NASL players playing in the league. It was really, really special games. We did it with one referee on the floor and another referee in the box. That's how we started it. And then maybe after year 4 or 5, we took that referee out of the box and put him or her on the floor to bring 2 referees on the floor because so much was happening in the game. So refereeing that first game was really special for me. And then I was fortunate enough to get to referee the All-Star game in Madison Square Garden, which growing up in New York City, that was really special. And then I guess finally the NCAA National Championship game in 1988 between Indiana and Howard.
Nice. Nice. Don, how about you?
Easy. I got 2 stories for you, if you will bear with me. difficult games, right? I would attend all of my son's collegiate games. He went to UNC Asheville, right? My wife, we'd come like all the parents do, sit there. So we're there. We always arrive early, half hour early there, and 2AR showed up and no referee. So the two coaches walk up to me, they know me, and they said, we want you to referee the game. Bear in mind, my son is playing in that game. There's one kid yelling at the top of voice, he sucks, not him. It was my son. All right. So I went to one of the other miniature referees, borrowed their outfit, and I went, oh my God. I was out and I refereed that game and I gave my son a yellow card. One more before this guy to my right kicks in.
I think we have a special guest.
Oh, let me finish this one because then I'm probably going to run. All right. Bear with me, Herb. So, you know, I was a national director of instruction for NISOA. I was national director of assessments for NISOA. I was a national referee. I'm at the same field a year later, right? UNC Asheville playing Catawba or somebody like that.
Huh?
I'm sitting there watching the game. The referees are there, so no pressure. I'm having fun. Little cheerleader runs up and says, Dr. Wilbur, would you, number 10 on the other team spitting at us every time he runs by. I go, hey, yeah, that's too bad. My wife says, you got to do something about that. That's not right. So I walked down to the field. Okay, 10 came by and spit at him. And I yelled at him, hey, right? The referee took his eye off the play. And when he did that, one of the Catawba players took my son down from behind. He blows his whistle, comes over to me and says, Don, what are you doing here? His nickname was Cubby. And I have this speech problem. And it came out, look, Chubby, if you would do your damn game, he wouldn't be there and he wouldn't be spitting. I got sent off a red card as National Director of Instruction for NISOA. Yes, Joe. I left the field, went outside the field. The athletic director walked by. Hey, Dr. Don, why don't you come sit with me? Oh, by the way, he also threw out the little ball boy because the ball boy said, you can't throw out Dr. Don. He's our friend. So he threw the ball boy out with me. So we're on the other side of the fence. The athletic director asked me to come and sit with him. And the ball boy starts crying and says, he can't, we've been thrown out. There. Now, Herb, how you doing?
Dr. Silva has joined the Fireside Chat tonight as our fact checker. Herb, is everything they said true?
No call is a call. Thank you for teaching me that, gentlemen.
Dr. Silva, welcome. How are you tonight?
Thank you. Trip down memory lane.
I love it. Is there
It was in the third year of the MISO. We went to two. Remember after the game in, I think it was St. Louis.
Right, there was a game between Baltimore and St. Louis, I think, and the what we called the alternate referee, he actually blew the whistle more than the referee from the stands. So that, and after the game, you know, we knew we were under pressure to try to do something for next season in order to make it better. And Dr. Silver and I, we met in the sauna of a hotel.
No, please.
No.
is this story acceptable for the NISOA channel?
In the sauna of the hotel, and we drew up the indoor two-man referee system. Is that right, Herb?
It's in Marriott, I believe, at the airport, St. Louis.
That's right, in St. Louis.
Herb, you'll notice.
Doctor, what did you do before you went to medical school, doctor?
I was a groundskeeper. I was keeping the ground well in Vietnam. Is that what you mean?
Right. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You know, Chris, you asked about more difficult games, and I just want to tell you about one other briefly. So I was the assistant coach for the Olympic B team. For Walter Chisowitz was the head coach, and we had 3 games in Puerto Rico. So we lost the first game, and he was not happy with the referees. And then we tied the second game, and he was not happy with the referees. And actually, the village people chased our bus and was throwing rocks at the bus and everything.
The Indian, the fireman, the policeman.
So, and so we had a meeting with the representatives of the Puerto Rican Soccer Federation, and Walter said, we're not playing the third game unless we can get a neutral referee to do the third game, because we had relied on solely the referees from Puerto Rico. And so like the game was like tomorrow, and the representatives from Puerto Rico said, well, there's no time, we can't get a neutral referee. Where are we gonna find a neutral referee? And Walter pointed to me. And so I refereed that game between USA and Puerto Rico. I didn't have any gear with me. I had to buy a black shirt in a store, you know, made yellow and red cards out of cardboard, and did the game. And that's kind of how I got introduced to refereeing, and with Walter, who, when he became head of the consultant for the indoor league, then that's how he kind of recommended me to be head of the referees for the indoor league, even though, because I knew a little bit about hockey as well.
Nice.
About as much about hockey as you did soccer.
I don't pretend to be an expert.
He keeps talking. I'm going to call you on the phone. We'll have a little conversation going. I miss you. How you doing?
No,
Listen,
Doc
gentlemen.
was one of the first, 5 or 6 full-time referees in the indoor league. After a while, the NASL was prohibiting their referees from working indoors. So in order to get some quality referees, we had to offer full-time jobs to 5 or 6 referees, and they wound up working, 70, 80 games a year, Herb, you guys were doing. And Herb was one of the first full-timers. Herb, Julio Salas, Bill Maxwell, Gino DiPolito, Anatol Popovich, Don Winshank, and I filled in a couple of games, but basically they did all the games.
Jeff as well.
Jeff Mantel, that's right.
Nice. Dr. Silva, I heard a rumor. I don't think it's a rumor. I think it's actually true. Today, your 52nd wedding anniversary?
She who must be obeyed. We used to go out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and now we just do 2 meals a day. So we did breakfast and dinner tonight. And I managed to go down and do some things at school in between and staying busy. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Nice.
She's put up with you all that time.
Congratulations.
Well, look at you two have got some years on that as well. So here's to them for putting up with you.
Between the 3 of us, we have 150 years.
More.
I'm over here. I feel really good about 8. Okay.
Oh, let me tell you, the next 42, hell, pure hell. No, they're good. Real good.
Whoa.
Oh,
She's still here. She's
oh,
still here.
hey, it's been the best 10 years of my life.
I love it.
Woke Mary, in case you're on.
I heard it.
Okay.
Wasn't funny.
Herb, how are things in St. Louis?
St. Louis is busy. I retired after 40 years with the whistle and so forth. I retired about 5 years ago, sat on the couch for 2 days, and then I've been working 60-hour weeks since then, playing doctor with students and trying to get treatment for veterans. And it's a whole different bag.
Good for you.
The veteran story is an entire different life. All right.
Yeah.
Brother, you're constantly, I'm proud of you.
The two of you taught some of us to be nutty professors as well. So taking lead from you guys. Thank you.
Herb, what else do we need to know about?
Entertaining watching Tori, you and Chris and some of the other names that I see are entertaining for remembering back decades ago. Doctor, you're talking 1970. How long is that? Hello?
Indoor soccer first game was in December, 1978, right? Or was it 77? 78?
77. Yeah.
77. Long time ago.
Wow.
19.
And you know, again, I'm listening to you guys talk about the old timers. You know, where's the Pat Smith teaching us all how to talk the talk, and let's not forget Harry Baldwin coming into the locker room and throwing clipboards across the room back when. That was always entertaining.
Well, tell us a story.
It was that was a playoff game. Let me think a second. It was in St. Louis at the soccer park. Soccer park was new, and we were doing something. And my one of my ways of just passing time in the locker room was just spit shining my shoes and so forth. And Harry walked in the locker room, didn't know me, and came over and just started chewing my butt. And I didn't know who he was. I kicked him out of the locker room. I told him that this is the way that I relaxed, and that was the way that I get my introduction to Harry Ball. God bless him. Pat Smith became the mentor. Pat was a British Marine, and we bonded in that regard, type of thing. That was again going down when the retirement, his retirement thing down in Florida and so forth before he passed. Again, fond memories. Thank you.
I remember the Pat Smith days.
And all of you went to his family's home and left me as the only one there at the tournament. I remember that.
Good for you, Doctor. You needed that work.
They knew you could do the job. You did the job of 5 or 6 people that time. So
I love it. Soccer creates a lot of memories, right? You know, soccer's a great family with lots of stories, great friendships along the way. That lets me segue. Dr. Wilbur was kind enough to share a presentation with us, and I'm going to let him talk through it once I screen share.
all right, there's Dr. Ray.
Yeah, walk us through this, Dr. Wilbur.
Upper left-hand corner, as you look at the screen, is Dr. Ray Burnaby. Okay, and then the top 2 pictures that you talked about my time at the NCAA, my short time at the NCAA, and these are college cups that I was in charge of, 1 and 2, the men, and then the women's down in the middle of that picture. The bottom left is that Union Lancers team, and here this is showing age. You want a history? You look at, concentrate on the bottom picture. You see a little baby there being held? Well, that's the son of the man in the white striped shirt back in the back. The guy in the back is Bradley, our former national coach. That's his little kid who plays on our national team now.
Wow.
I'm feeling old. And then this is the group. That's me and him with a beard, me without one in that picture. Then you'll see our team that we sent to the 2014 World Cup.
That sounds right.
That's Geiger and
Anderson.
no, that's not the guy. Anderson, Joe Fletcher. Joe Fletcher was with. I got his picture coming up later. Joe Fletcher and Mark. And then that's Brian Hall looking over my shoulder as I'm teaching him how to assess. And you can recognize a couple of the ladies on the bottom there. And we all appreciate and love Terry Vaughn. So every year, the Iowa chapter has this great Terry Vaughn seminar series where they invite speakers. And the year I appeared was with Kermit and Miss FIFA right there. And then there's Essie, Mr. FIFA up at the top.
Very good.
So here is a rogues gallery of Alfred Klenitis. Top left is, of course, Tambo, Alfred Klenitis, me, and then Ali Baba, Ali Shahili. The very bottom picture below that is Michelle Toubre and myself with NISOA badges in Haiti. Referee, that's our soccer field. We help them make the goals, give them the shoes, give them the uniforms, and she went with me because she told me she could speak Creole, but she couldn't speak Haitian. Bottom there, these are some of the people that have really formed our game, not just me and my attitude to the game, but our game. The top right, you can see the fan zone, a group of people that on a tournament up in Columbia that Rob Faraday has. Bottom right is I can't see all of them because of our pictures are in the way, but that's Pedro and who's that guy in U.S. soccer, Rick, and then some of us that were coach mentors out in California. Next. I'm trying to put as many in there as possible. Oh my God, look at Herb. That was before, look how built he is.
Looks good.
That's an ECNL tournament that we were all invited to. There's Sandy and myself and a group of the students that we taught. The middle picture at the top has got Dick Trish. It's got Bob Sabella, a young lady referee, some guy from St. Louis, Hollingsworth, and me, and look how tall I am because I'm standing on the cart. Oh yeah, and then Tamburino, and I had that picture in twice. I won games from for the ACC, and then the middle picture on the bottom is a group of us that went to Gino's induction into the NISOA Hall of Fame. And this is before we went out and celebrated. The bottom right is Steve Olson, former FIFA referee, U.S. national, who was my fourth official in that game. Next. Okay.
Even there's more?
On the top, a lot of people that
31
make
slides.
who you are and me who I am.
Okay.
All right. The top left is Herb's induction into the New England Soccer Hall of Fame. Really beautiful ceremony right in his old hometown. That's Gino in the middle of the top with his induction into the NISOA Hall of Fame. The bottom one was taken at the men's senior USSF senior or adult organization. I gave a talk and these were the only people that showed up. And then top right is just a bunch of the people that we're all standing on their shoulders.
Fabulous pictures.
Group. Yeah. One more or two more. I'm trying. Oh my God, here's your FIFA group at the top left. Oh, there's our hostess. And with her, Tori, is Carrie,
Sandy, Nancy Lane.
Four of the pioneers in women's soccer, without a doubt.
Yeah, they were
the future of women's soccer.
They were the first women to referee in Major League Soccer.
Yep.
And that took place the year before the first women's pro league.
Yeah.
So U.S. Soccer was preparing a staff to referee in the women's pro league, and they were considered the best of the group, and they got to referee a handful of games in regular season, games in MLS, and Open Cup games.
Top right is just another dinner party. You'll notice I clean all of the booze up. It was hard finding pictures of us, Herb, without drink. The middle one in the bottom is Nasser and myself, and we were coach mentors for Mark, Sean, and the Canadian.
Joe
Fletcher. I know, I'm trying to get him in. And then the one that's obscured by us on the bottom is my man Herb, my AR in that famous game, Dave McKee, and then myself. And up at the top is, Joe, your picture might be hidden there, but you're coming up. What's that guy's name? He's with Pro. Come on, the English guy that came over.
Paul Regier.
Trying to get audience participation.
There you go. Last one. The important one.
For me, you want to know where all those NCAA soccer balls went? I took them on medical mission trips. That's where they went. The picture below the soccer balls is me in Brazil because I gave all the other ones away and the guy made me a soccer ball.
Nice.
The bottom picture is my cleats on my last game. And as you can see, they were gone. The people to the left of the screen, that's my family. The lady to the right is my wife. And without her support, I wouldn't have that family on the left. And without that family on the left support, my wife probably would have left me years ago.
Fantastic.
So that's a history through a lot of people that have really made the game today what it is. And I'm proud of each and every one of them.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. it just goes back to, we've talked in the previous weeks about how important we've had one of the episodes was devoted to that work-life balance and how we do that. And Dr. Joe, you can probably speak to it, and same with Dr. Silva, how important it is to have that support at home to be able to do, what we do, right? What our members do.
Not a question.
We as referees don't have, like the other sports, the other athletes. When we have a bad game, who do you talk to? You don't have assessors coming in the room anymore. You may have a coach mentor, they're not allowed in the room anymore. So who do you talk to? You talk to those two people in the room with you, or three. You really go back home and talk to her or him, as the case. And that's your biggest support group. Mentally, you need that. Without it, trust me, I've been out to eat with Herb and his wife and this guy here and his wife, and those are the bonds. And then the wives all get together, and it is a great session because they've all gone through the same thing, at different times maybe, but that's what you want. You need that.
I'm almost starting to cry.
Well, I have more honey for you, please.
All right, so along those lines, and anybody can answer this, it's important to have that support system. So what was one of the lowest points of your officiating career? And how important was that support system at that time?
I'll let you take it since you've had so many.
Oh, Herb, you're looking like you're ready. Go for it.
Just listening. Thank you. No, I'm just listening.
I tell you that,
Go ahead, then I will.
so I mentioned the 1988 championship game, Indiana and Howard, and the game was televised by ESPN. However, not televised live. So I think the game was, like shortly after Thanksgiving, maybe first week in December, but they didn't show the game on television until after Christmas. So, and they didn't, it was back then you didn't get a videotape. So, and I had this controversial decision on a penalty, and it wound up being scored in the 31st minute. And it was deemed to be controversial, and I never got to see it until I got to see it on TV almost a month later. So that whole month, I was like, how is it going to be portrayed? What did the announcers say? Did I get away with it, so to speak? Did I get away with it?
Right.
What did it look like on TV? What was the TV angle? So that was a tough time. And as it turned out, Seamus Mallon was the color commentator, and he didn't like the call at first, but then when he saw the replay, he said something to the effect, well, he certainly got him. It was like one of these, but I was uncomfortable with it. I knew I gave the penalty. I was sure about the penalty, but it's like, just because you're sure, you only have one angle at it, and you guys today get to have a VAR look at it with 16, 18 different angles, and then get a second shot at it if someone thinks you need to take another look. That didn't exist back then, and so it was a little bit problematic for me, and I certainly brought that home with me, and it put a lot of stress during the holiday season until I was satisfied with how the TV covered it.
But it wasn't a one-night stress. It was prolonged stress. And my advice to the referees out there is you got to be competent, you got to be confident, and you got to realize that soccer is a microcosm of life. You are going to make mistakes. And it's really if you were in good position, if you had a good angle of view, if you did everything you could, you're still going to miss them. Ours is the only game, the only professional youth, any type of game, college, the only game where we got all kinds of power, where we were making 800 to 900 decisions in a game, and people are going to remember that one screw up, that one bad call. They're not going to remember the other 899. They'll remember that. You have to be able to have thick enough skin, and it's not gonna be over in a night. It's gonna be over a week or weeks, but you're gonna think about it. You're gonna ask yourself that thing again. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? And how can I fix it? And you'll fix it if it's fixable. There's some of them that are impossible. I didn't think I missed a handball in that 1988 game. I watched it again today, and shit, I really did. I was in close proximity. I didn't have a good angle view. But I blame Dave McKee and I blame Steve Olson, because they were right there with a better view. Mine was bluff. You have to be strong. You have to be a professional, and you have to admit you're not always right.
So compounding the situation, right? It happened in the 31st minute. So we get into the locker room at halftime. I say to one assistant referee, the one who's closest, I said, what did you have? He said, I didn't have anything. And then I asked the other assistant, he said, 100% penalty. He's the furthest away. 100% penalty. They're calling that penalty in Italy all the time.
You reminded him we're not in Italy.
Yeah.
Boom, Bob. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Herb, did we relax you enough now? Smile. Tell one.
What
Program with you that I got 2 words in. Come on, Herb.
the thing that jumps back at me is when we all learned to be self-critical, and actually it's interesting when I transitioned back into the dental world, and the first thing I did when I was with a student and not quite sure what was going on, we watched a student dealing with a patient, and we finished the procedure, and I said, okay, give me your 3+ and your 3- on your self-analysis of your performance from our takeaways from the old days. You go back to thinking, Joe, remember when we started, there was not VHS, and I can remember right here where I'm sitting in the first early days of that when it was the video game was all of a sudden you were dealing with the replays and looking to do the dump tapes and tapping from one tape to the other and identifying the critical calls. And as you made reference to, Doctor, the issue of how many calls do you make, and of course the no call is a call is an issue, and that's going to be a significant message as well. So again, the takeaways have been terrific for life from our game to the game of life. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Today, Chris, both of them said it, and I agree. It's like Pink Floyd's song about like you're in a fishbowl, and you guys out there refereeing today are in a fishbowl. 20 cameras, 20 police. You know, you can't get by with it. We got by with it with personality, pizzazz, style, ability to communicate with the players if you did screw up or didn't. But we got by with that. But today, it's difficult to get by with that.
Can't hide it.
No.
Can't hide it.
And if you do, it's all on the news tomorrow. So you can't hide. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Dr. Joe, we had a question submitted by one of the NISOA members. What was your favorite soccer game to cover live on TV as a broadcaster?
No, Don Wilbur says his game was before TV. So it certainly wasn't that one. Wow, you know, haven't given that one any thought whatsoever, but I could tell you that, you know, anytime the USA played well and had a significant victory, and of course we didn't get to qualify for World Cup, the last World Cup, and so there was certainly the down points of losing the Confederations Cup that would have helped us get into the World Cup and all of that. So, you know, I mean, my role is they call it rules analysis. So my role is to help explain to the audience what goes into a referee making a decision. And then, you know, I don't consider myself a pundit. I'm not out there criticizing, but I'll try to explain the decision. I don't know that I really have a favorite or least favorite game, but anytime the USA plays well, like today, we had some bright moments from a lot of young kids.
Yeah.
And I worked the game, but didn't have an opportunity to speak about it. But that's sometimes a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I thought you were going to ask about way back in NISOA when we used to do the two-man system or the two-person dual system of control. And Don and I, we lived through the time when we transformed from the dual system into the three-man system. And it's because we were both U.S. soccer referees as well. We had a heads up on that. We had a foot in the door, but there were so many NISOA referees back then. This is not meant to criticize, but they refereed soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and baseball in the summer, and the two-person system was less stressful because there were two whistles out there and not one person had the full burden of responsibility. But we all know the shortcomings of the two-person system, and that's why we slowly changed it. And especially in New England, where I was, there was a lot of resistance. Some of the major colleges didn't want to go to three-person, maybe for financial reasons, but a lot of coaches back then thought the two-person system was better than the diagonal system of control, and it took time to get that to be changed. And I'm proud to say that I was part of the group that helped change it, and also as a coach at the university, as one of the first universities that put in three-man system I was also the athletic director, so I controlled the budget. So we had the three-person system at our games at a Division II school in New England, well before some of the Division I schools. Yeah.
So,
Chris, can I tell you one of my more embarrassing ones?
sure.
It's a NISOA one.
All right.
It involves Ken Andrews
Oh, boy.
turning me in to Ray Burnaby. I did a women's collegiate game, ACC. It was on TV. And one of the North Carolina referees, who I won't mention his name today, but he's the same guy that threw me out of the game earlier. Okay, so anyhow, we show up, there are only two of us, and the other referee, all he had was fuchsia. Okay, all right. So we put on the long sleeve fuchsia. That was not NISOA. That was USSF. So we refereed that game on TV. At halftime, I got a call. I didn't answer it. At the end of the game, I got a call. It was Ray Burnaby. And Ken Andrews squealed on me. And watched TV. He should have been in the audience. But that was a major embarrassing thing. And also the end of my career in the ACC. No.
Oh, I love it. The question was submitted, and it goes back to, we were just talking about the two-man system. It's not quite the two-man system, but it's related. The question is, a number of years ago, two Massachusetts referees worked many games in the Open Cup as two referee, two ARs. Peter Kuklowski and Gus St. Silva. The general consensus was that the format of refereeing worked well, but FIFA decided not to continue the experiment. Did you see in any of those matches, and what was your opinion?
Well, I didn't see any of those matches, but we also we were given permission at US Soccer to use the two-man system, two-person system in the Open Cup one year. And of course, this was when MLS teams were playing in the Open Cup, and it was going reasonably well until I think a game with Chicago Fire went downhill with LA Galaxy, where one referee who should have had the call didn't, and the trail referee furthest away didn't make the call because he didn't want to embarrass the lead referee, and the whole thing went into the tank. But we actually had Codesal, the Mexican referee, come to a clinic that we did at national camp
Yeah.
and tried to explain to us the two referee system. And some of us who had worked it in college knew more than he knew about it, but he wouldn't let us answer any questions if you remember. So
We also had Raul as the interpreter. And that,
yeah, so it went downhill. I didn't see any of those games in New England, however.
to me, Chris, whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. I don't care how many you put on out there. They have to be a team. And to be a team, that means they've had to practice. They've had to do several games together. They have to be on the same mental telepathy to understand, you're with me? And to put four different people out on the field, that's mayhem. I would rather have one, but I'm not against the 4-person referee or 5 or whatever you want. As long as they're a team, they've worked together and they know what they're doing.
And that goes even like now with VAR. I mean, you hear talks of, okay, remember how the assistant referee was called a linesman, and he wasn't really part of the team, so to speak. Now, now as assistant referee, you try to make the assignments the same, use the same people, they get used to each other. Now, the goal is make the VAR part of the team, so the VAR is feeling the game like the referees, so they know which calls to send down and which not, and that's a challenge in itself.
But even in NISOA, we're not shipping entire teams to games, are we?
Nope.
And so again, there's not a lot of knowing what they're going to do. You're learning on the edge of your whistle or flag, so to speak. And second half of these games often looks a little different from the first half.
And the pregame is really important.
Yeah. So I hope we answered their question.
No, I think so. This goes for me. Before I go on to the next one, Dr. Silva, anything to add on that, on the 2-man system?
I again, one of the things that always I still pay attention to that, and the little that I still get to watch games, is the work rate that the officials bring to their match, with particularly in the middle, and it's a question of anticipating the play and getting the proper angle on play. To speak, Joe, I remember again go back to when we first started doing video, and when you've got the video slow motion from 3 different angles versus what the referee was doing, if he was being nonchalant and if he didn't know when he was getting behind the play, if he was getting to 6 o'clock position and he needed to get the angle on the play. And that's something, again, to control that controllable, that's well within the range of just the official's work rate. So that's something that you can all take to the game each and every time.
I think, Herb, too, that the fitness level that the referees, today's referee, has to attain and keep and use from game is so much different than it was like when we first started in MLS, when the referees were part-time, and for some of them it was just a hobby. Now it's full-time for many of the referees, and they're constantly testing their fitness. And because they're so fit and they know where to run now more than before, they're getting a better angle on the play. And I think that's really one of the major contributions of the changes that have taken place in professional referees programming in the United States than when we were in, I don't want to say that we were in charge, but when we were working together to try to make something happen.
Never in charge, that's for sure.
We were trying to make something happen. That's what it was.
Tell me about it. I'm over here trying to keep up with my wife, see her fitness level. Anyway, let's talk about, we're kind of on this topic right now. What are some of the changes you've seen, Joe and Don, Dr. Joe, Dr. John, some of the changes you've seen across college soccer throughout the years?
So, I mean, several things, but certainly the quality of play. Back when I was doing college soccer, you had the better players in the ACC and some of the major college conferences, but then you had Division II and Division III, and you had some real challenging games And then all of a sudden, women's soccer comes into play, and you get a whole nother ball game. In fact, we know that there are more women's college teams than there are men's college teams, and there's so many more women's games. And refereeing a women's game is another challenge for the referee, because I mean it's the same game, the same rules, but it's played somewhat differently. And there's a different level of sporting behavior. There's a different level of speed, sometimes a different level of intensity, and it's a challenge, you know, to know what hat you're wearing if you're going from the men's game to the women's game and back. So I think that's really one of the changes is the amount of women's soccer and the challenges of going back and forth.
In the beginning, when it was always the coaches and the players had better education, better training. You with me?
Mhm.
We didn't, what we have? We had the laws of the game or NCAA rules of the game, right? That was about it. But as I said earlier, programs like this are great educational tools. We may be old farts talking about the history tonight, but the fact of the matter is there was a lot of education given tonight. But programs like this, the Zoom has helped immensely. In times like this with COVID where we can't go to meetings, you know, this is bringing it in. I think this is a great tool. And I'm proud of NISOA and what they're doing with these tools, because if you can't go to them, bring the education to them. And it'll be more uniform that way also. Because when we have clinics just for the national referees or just for ACC guys or whatever group you're a member of, that's a whole vast audience out there that doesn't benefit from that.
Yeah.
We've always been guilty structurally of sending the latest rules, interpretation, and laws of the game and clips and all of that to certain people in the state. And it usually stayed on their desk. It was not disseminated out to the masses. These are opportunities today that you have and that you're working on and presenting that we didn't have. And I applaud you. I salute you. I think this is as the Mandorian says, yeah, this is the way. Okay.
So, but Chris, also, like for example, I assessed the game,
Mandalorian.
Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh women at Citadel.
Mhm.
The game was on ESPN Plus. So this means the referee after the game could go home and watch it, okay, and actually see what he looked like, or look like for real. And that's how you become better. If back in the day we could have seen what we looked like, yes. If we could have seen what we looked like, we probably would have. Well, I don't know.
I have a comment to make on this.
So I mean that's major, because like all coaches think their players love them.
Yeah.
All referees think they're doing a good job. But if you can see yourself, if you see yourself out there and what you look like, sometimes you can, the best way to learn is to see other referees make a decision, and now you analyze it. It's like the similarity between goalkeeping and refereeing. You can't make a mistake, right? You can't make a mistake. So in either position, so let someone else make the mistake. You watch a game where that referee make a mistake, you don't ever make the same mistake again. Same thing for goalkeeping. Goalkeeping makes an error. We were at a game you were assessing, right? And the goalkeeper fouled for a penalty kick.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And the referee had it right.
Well, 5 minutes later.
But he had it right. But the mother of the goalkeeper asked you, what could have my daughter done to differently?
Yes.
And I said, well, if she would have gone back.
You were in your car, damn it. You said it to me.
Yeah.
You were in your car.
I said if after the contact she would have gone back and embellished the contact, the referee might have been given the call for her.
Yes.
Rather than the penalty
And
kick.
that's what I told the mother.
So I mean, you learn from other people's mistakes and then you don't then make the same mistake again on the, field, and that's how you get better.
I think in today's age, everyone's got smartphone. Well, sorry, Herb, I know you still got
No,
that
very-
flip phone, but
He's
everyone's
got with the dial phone.
everyone's got a smartphone. In that game in 1988 in Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia, I invited a friend, Dr. Ken Spicer, to come to the game. He was visiting relatives. He brought one of those 185-pound, what do you call them? The cameras they had back then. And his job, God bless him, his job was to focus only on me, not on the game, because we knew ESPN would have it. And I still put that game and then his tape of me so I could see what I look like. I thought I was 6'4", 215. I didn't think I ever sweat, Suddenly I saw my image of myself. And when you give a card, how you look.
Yeah.
When you communicate with a player, how you look. Just your actions. Were they too abrupt? Are you inviting? Are you really inviting a conversation when you need to invite a conversation to cool the game down? But you can learn a lot just by having a friend with your phone focus only on you.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Now, speaking of videos, let's watch one. Let's see what I got here. Let me get out of PowerPoint.
It's much in too.
Yeah. We'll worry about
Look at
that
that
later.
fine family. It's the United Nations.
Dr. Joe, help us walk us through this one.
Well, this is the 88 final that I talked about with the controversial penalty kick.
Oh, I don't think it's controversial.
So what everybody else did. Back then, you didn't give a penalty kick unless you saw the bone coming out of the person's leg. So we got a foul here and a free kick.
Now,
Goes,
before the free kick, I'm going to pause it, because we've talked about what are some of the changes we've seen in our sport, and I'm going to let you set the ball, and you're going to take up your position. Now, we see the position you take up here, right?
so much different from what you're being taught today, where you would have been all the way over, to the other side of the field, looking at the drop zone.
Right.
Right. So
we'll play it forward and maybe see why we made that change.
right, and this is why it was a problem for me, because
Sure.
because of the distance I was, from when I made the decision.
That's why I didn't send you any of my clips.
So I'm nowhere to be seen, and I should be right there at the top of the screen outside the penalty area.
Oh, look at you run now, though.
Yeah.
That's a way to sell the
Well,
call.
I had to sell it because I was calling it from 75 yards.
Those legal shorts.
Did you get any help from your assistant?
That's the assistant that told me he had nothing
Oh, but it was the assistant from midfield that had penalty all day, right?
all day, especially.
Because this is a penalty in Italy.
You got a good replay coming up, and I get saved actually by the replay.
Yeah, I mean, clear penalty all day.
See, and back then too, Chris, you called a penalty if the player was going to goal. Here, the player is going away from the goal, and you would wave this off back then commonly. But I called it a PK, and that's why it was controversial.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. We talk, the common term nowadays is the modern game, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing to see how much the game has changed, and it'll continue to change. We'll look back on clips from 2020, 30 years from now, and see again how much the game has changed, right?
Even Chris, on corner kicks back then, the referee took a position on the goal line. Yeah. Right?
I did that in my game.
Right.
Well, I mean, that happened last week, so it happened. I'll find you a clip. Don't worry. All right. A couple of questions have popped in. Anybody can go. What do you guys see as the most important traits for a successful referee?
Teachable. are they teachable? And if they're teachable, do they retain the information that you taught them? Okay?
Passion. Okay, you have to have passion for the game. You have to have loved the game. You have to be a student of the game. You just can't referee the game you're refereeing. You've got to know about all of the other games and come to the grips of knowing that your game you're refereeing is the most important game, okay? Because they're going to announce your name. Referee today, Don Wilbur. Referee today, Joe Machnik. The moment they announce your game, then that's your game. You have to put your stamp on it, okay? And that's the kind of passion that can lead to success. Take full responsibility of what's happening out there. And understand what you think as a referee a good game looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, because not all the time the players they're gonna want to play their game, and yeah, you want them to play their game, but when their game crosses the line, what your line is, then you got to put your stamp on it.
I think you need to know what your goals are and how realistic are they to be attained. Not everyone is going to be MLS. Not everyone is going to be FIFA. Not everyone is going to be a NISOA national referee. So there comes a time when your life where you look in that mirror and you don't give up the game. You continue refereeing at a level that brings pleasure to you, that you enjoy, that you're not sleepless nights every night. Suddenly you're back enjoying the game. And once you accept that, you're going to be a much happier person than someone who thinks they ought to be somewhere where there's no way they're ever going to be. And those are the hardest ones to deal with as a coach and mentor, because you have to get in their head what's in your head. And it's a little difficult, but I think we all have accountability for the games we do. And I believe that. And I also believe not everyone can do the final of the World Cup. So you find where your comfort level is, and man, stay. And then when your cleats look like mine, there are other areas of the game that desperately need you. I don't know what we're calling these retired referees now with a lot of ability. We used to call them assessors, instructors, and we said mentors and coach mentors. Past names, but now we go to games, and if solicited, we give them that. But they need to hear that from someone. They need coaching. And I'm talking about the grassroots. I'm talking about the ones that aren't in the ACC, the ones that aren't doing the ones that are doing the games I did this year. Those referees needed someone to talk to.
Dr. Joe, if you put your coaching hat on, is your answer different as a coach? As a coach of the game, not as a referee coach, as a soccer coach.
As a soccer coach, wow. I mean, I think my answer is the same. I mean, for me, you know, I coached some pretty high levels. I think, with all due respect. I mean, I coached in 2 NCAA final games. And winning was important. So winning as a referee is important. So what is winning as a referee? So does that mean both teams come up to you after the game and say, shake your hands and say, hey, good game, ref? Or does it mean, like I sometimes said, if the losing team walks off the field thinking they got a fair shake, the visiting team walks off the field thinking they got a fair shake, then I think you've done a pretty good game, and maybe you win as a ref. You win, you walk off the field thinking you've made a contribution. And the same thing as coaching, and your goal at the highest level is to win the game. So you do what you can to make that happen.
Dr. Wilbur, a question came in for you. How did NISOA helped shape your officiating, instructing, assessing, and administration career?
That's a good question. I asked my wife to ask that, so thank you. That was very good. Now, let me take my notes and read that to you. I think for me, it's like the Mandalorian. It's learn the way. And the way was go to E-Town, meet their instructors, see what they were all about, meet a Ray Burnaby who told you the history of it. They made it so you wanted to become a member of this. I mean, and then you're given an assignment out of nowhere, like the first time you ever assessed the big game. How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for this tonight? He told you how he did. By the way, I was, if it wasn't military you wanted, Herb, I was a neuroendocrinologist who did microvascular surgery. So
Go back to the question, doctor, was before medical school.
oh, that was because it's all you know, with me. So going back there, when people are shooting at you and you're shooting at them, you learn to communicate more effectively with bigger weapons. Let's get back to this. I think I found role models for instructing. I mean, I was taught personally by Bob Sumter, who knowledge beyond knowledge. I was taught by, what's this here? I got his award. He's was the Welshman, Bob Evans. I was taught by, you know what I mean? I was taught by them, and it was people I respected, and I wanted to learn from them. And then I'd meet people like Herb, you know, and he taught me more. He taught me bull. This is my friend, and he's taught me a lot. I mean, a lot. You go through, you get appointments, you meet good people, you make friendships. Okay, we had a program with U.S. Soccer, which I still believe in today, called the Platinum Program, where young referees spent a lot of time with them, had the FIFA Advanced NISOA post-game thing with them, and saw how they thought or didn't think, and then showed them the way. So for me, I had a lot of good people, and you saw their pictures earlier that showed me the way to referee, the way to assess. I had my own way of assessing. I met Herb. He showed me his way of doing it. I showed him mine, and he thought I was nuts. He is a cryptographer. He has codes on there I could never do. I would write a novel. Okay, at this minute, this. He remembered it. So you take from those people. You take from Joe, and you learn what they do well that you can incorporate into your style. And you don't mimic them, you can't. There's only one Joe, there's only one Herb. But you take what you can from them and use it as an assessor, as a referee, as an instructor.
You know, Chris, you talk about NISOA and the history and, you know, the fact that we go back so far. Today's NISOA is not anything like the NISOA of 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So, I mean, yes, you have all the technology and you do a lot of things differently with technology and tape and all of the things we talked about. But also now, within the last 5 years, I would say, you've brought into the leadership of NISOA active referees who are still living the game on the field. And this is, you know, I went to the NISOA clinic in, what'd you call it, a summit. NISOA summit in St. Louis. Dr. Herb was there too, he came by. And I mean, it was night and day from the previous NISOA stuff I had been to, because the presentations were all by people living the game, active referees of NISOA and pro. And I mean, the work that you and Tori and Lance before you have done and continue to do. The new NISOA is providing opportunity for people to become better referees on a big time scale.
Yeah. I have to agree. I have to agree. All right. Well, it's 10:29, believe it or not, which is about 3 hours past Dr. Wilbur's bedtime, from what I've been
Well,
told.
the boss from the home has been out here honking the horn to take me home. So thank you.
Wait. I thought you've lived with Dr. Joe the last 3 months. You don't need to go anywhere, do you?
Barbara just came back.
Oh, all right then. This question's for all three of you. It's not really a question. It's just, it's time to wrap it up. So, Dr. Silva, I'll start with you. Any last words of wisdom for our NISOA members?
A trait to take away is the critical self-analysis. I mean, that was one of the things as we climbed the administrator ladder, go back down to what you were talking about with when we did the short panel, to identify those referees that could be critical of their own performances and hit the mark. And I think I learned that back, Lord knows back when, from watching coaches analyze the game, Joe. Back when, you know, it was look, going back to it, watching the coaches analyze the performances of what they did with their players and likewise, and I can then remember generalizing that. So the ability to self-analyze your stuff and be critical and be able to transfer that criticism into action. Go do it.
I mean, even as simple as what I'm doing now, you know, I mean, I'm very critical of the things that I say on TV. I mean, I have my cheat sheets all over the place because you have to use the right choice of words. And sometimes you know, after the broadcast is over, you feel so down because you feel you had this one opportunity to address a situation correctly and you didn't use the right word or words. And then I've learned something, and I don't know that it can take it to referee, but JP Dellacamera taught me, he said, when you think you've done something really bad on television and you watch it later, it's not so bad. But when you think you've done really good on television and you watch it later, it's not so good either. So I mean, I don't know if you can take that philosophy into refereeing. At least I couldn't, because I was always self-critical of everything I did on the field.
I'll give you some advice.
Go for it.
Free advice. You ever go to a couple bars in Sarasota? Is that where it was, the Three Docks at Herb? With me?
Yes, sir.
The dollar bills.
Yeah.
And the,
You know, they took all the dollar bills down and gave it to poor people.
Alfred did that. Alfred collected all of that. What I want for everybody out there is have a relationship like Herb, Joe, and I have. And I think it's there. It's there. You learn from them and you go on. But for me, the friendships have been the best. Okay, and the ones that you have, they're still there.
Thanks for the memories, gentlemen. Adios.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Silva. Well, it's 10:32. It's time to wrap it up. This concludes episode 7, week 7 of the NISOA Fireside Chat series. This concludes the entire series for this fall. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. I hope at some point along the way, we were able to give you some tidbits of information to make you a little bit better of a referee. Hopefully everybody learned something from our various guests, whether it was basketball, hockey, baseball, even way back to week 1 with Ted Uncle, week 2 with Howard Webb. The list goes on. A big thank you to the NISOA Foundation Fund for making this happen. Like Tori alluded to early in the show, the NISOA Foundation Fund helps fund all these educational initiatives to give this material to our members and make everybody better referees. That's it on my end. I'm gonna kind of miss this. You know, I had my Monday evenings locked up the last 7 weeks, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do with myself.
Well, if you want to call us again sometime, we'll just chat.
You know, we could call. Maybe I'll just drive up to Charleston. You know, I've got a school down the road in Beaufort, so I can just come up and spend the night. We could reminisce. You know,
Either way.
have a cup of water.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, everybody, until next time, thank you and good night.
I hope everyone had as much fun as we did. Thank you so much.
Dr. Joe, Dr. Don, thank you so much.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Okay, Joseph.